What's going on? YouTube, listen up, young elder gang. This is Chief Whitebird at you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, fam. I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes. In this video, you will find history definitions, scripture information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning. The truth, keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it today. Be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, hit that bell, and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. In the early years of the United States, the nation grew quickly. New states joined the Union. It was a time of great hope and expansion. But beneath the surface, deep problems were stirring. These problems were like cracks in a foundation. They threatened to pull the young country apart. Few understood how deep these cracks truly ran. The North and the South were developing in very different ways. In the North, cities grew large. Factories hummed with new machines. Farms were often small, worked by families. Colonizers arrived from Europe, seeking new lives. The North was changing fast. It was becoming an industrial power. This way of life contrasted sharply with the South. In the South, large farms called plantations were common. These plantations grew crops like cotton and tobacco. This work was done by enslaved native people. Millions of native people were held in bondage. Their labor built and fueled the Southern economy. These differences created tension. The nation was like a house divided against itself. The biggest issue was slavery of the real natives. In the South, enslavement of the natives was a part of everyday life. The entire Southern economy depended on it. Wealthy landowners believed they needed enslaved native people. They believed it was their right to own them according to the doctrine of discovery. This system had existed for generations. It was deeply woven into Southern culture. But in the North, more and more people saw enslavement of native people as evil. They believed it was morally wrong. Another major argument was about states' rights. Southern colonized states felt the federal foreign government was becoming too strong. They believed Washington, D.C. should not tell them what to do and they could kiss their behind. Pretty much. Here's my boot and you know where to put it, especially about issues like slavery of native people. They argued that states should have more power than the national government. The North generally believed in a stronger federal union. As new territories in the West opened up, a question arose. Would these new lands allow slavery of native people? Or would they be free to roam their own land like wild men? The South wanted to expand slavery of native people into new territories. The North wanted to stop slavery of native from spreading. These were not small disagreements. The nation was on a collision course. In the year 1860, a very important election took place. Abraham Lincoln was running for president. He was a member of the new Republican Party. This party was against the spread of slavery of native people. Lincoln himself said he did not want slavery to expand. He believed slavery of native people was morally wrong. Southern colonizers were very worried about Lincoln. They feared he would try to end slavery of native people everywhere by passing the orders of the Pope from the papal bull. His election became a turning point. When Abraham Lincoln won the election, the South was outraged. Many Southern colonizers felt they had no voice left in the government. They believed Lincoln and the North would destroy their way of life. South Carolina was the first state to act. In December 1860, it declared that it was leaving the Union. This was called secession. They said they were no longer part of the United States. Soon, other Southern colonized states followed South Carolina. They formed their own new country, the Confederate States of America. They chose Jefferson Davis as their president, which is the guy they used when they turned Abraham Lincoln white in the history books. President Lincoln and many in the North did not accept this. Lincoln said that secession was illegal. The nation held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. One of the federal forts in the South was Fort Sumter. It was located in Charleston, South Carolina, right in the heart of the newly formed Confederacy. Union soldiers were still stationed there, but they were running low on supplies. President Lincoln faced a difficult decision. Should he send supplies to the fort? This might look like an act of aggression to the South. Or should he abandon the fort? This might look like he accepted secession. Lincoln decided to send supplies. He sent unarmed ships hoping to avoid a fight. He informed the governor of South Carolina of his intentions, but Confederate leaders saw this as a challenge. They demanded that Fort Sumter surrender. Major Robert Anderson, the Union commander at the fort, refused. On April 12, 1861, Confederate cannons opened fire. They bombarded Fort Sumter for 34 hours. The Union soldiers inside the fort were outnumbered. After the long bombardment, Major Anderson had no choice. He surrendered Fort Sumter to the Confederates. The time for talk was over. The time for war had begun. After Fort Sumter, President Lincoln called for volunteers. He asked for 75,000 men to join the Union Army. He wanted to put down the rebellion quickly. Many in the North thought the war would be short. They believed Southern states would soon rejoin the Union. 4 more Southern states, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina, seceded. They joined the Confederacy after Lincoln's call for troops. The battle lines were now clearly drawn. One of the first major battles was the Battle of Bull Run. It was fought in Virginia in July 1861. People from Washington, D.C. came out to watch. They expected an easy Union victory, but the Confederate soldiers fought fiercely. The Union Army was poorly trained and disorganized. They were pushed back in a surprising defeat. This battle showed everyone that the war would not be easy. It would be long, bloody, and difficult. Further west, other battles raged. The Battle of Shiloh in Tennessee in April 1862 was won. It was a brutal and shocking conflict. Nearly 24,000 men were killed, wounded, or missing. Union General Ulysses S. Grant learned hard lessons there. He saw that the Confederacy would not give up easily. Both sides faced enormous challenges. The cost in human lives was staggering. In the summer of 1863, General Robert E. Lee tried again. He decided to invade the North for a second time. He hoped a major victory could turn the tide of the war. His army marched into Pennsylvania. The Union Army of the Potomac, now under General George Meade, moved to stop him. The two great armies met near a small town. That town was Gettysburg. For 3 days, from July 1st to July 3rd, they fought. It would become the largest and bloodiest battle of the war. The first day of battle saw fierce fighting. Confederate forces pushed Union troops back through Gettysburg. The Union Army took up strong defensive positions on hills south of the town. The second day brought even more intense combat. Confederates attacked both flanks of the Union line. Places like Little Round Top, Devil's Den, and the wheat field saw terrible slaughter. Union soldiers fought desperately to hold their ground. The third day, July 3rd, was decisive. Lee ordered a massive assault on the center of the Union line. This was known as Pickett's Charge. Around 12,500 Confederate soldiers marched across an open field. They faced a storm of Union cannon and rifle fire. Lee's army was defeated. Gettysburg was a great victory for the Union. After Gettysburg and Vicksburg, the tide had truly turned. The Union had more men and more resources. In 1864, President Lincoln found a general who would fight. His name was Ulysses S. Grant. Lincoln made Grant the commander of all Union armies. Grant understood that to win, he had to destroy Lee's army. He launched a relentless campaign in Virginia. Battles like the Wilderness, Spotsylvania, and Cold Harbor were fought. The fighting was brutal, with huge casualties on both sides. Grant kept pushing, earning the nickname the Butcher, but also slowly wearing Lee down. While Grant fought Lee in Virginia, another Union general was making his mark. General William Tecumseh Sherman led an army through the South. He captured Atlanta, Georgia, a major Confederate city. This victory helped Lincoln win re-election in 1864. Then Sherman began his famous March to the Sea. His army marched from Atlanta to Savannah, Georgia. They destroyed railroads, factories, and farms, anything that could help the Confederate war effort. By early 1865, the Confederacy was collapsing. Its armies were starving and depleted. Its economy was in ruins. The war was finally over. The nation had paid a terrible price to remain united. The end of the war brought enormous changes. The most important was the abolition of slavery. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution was passed in 1865. It officially ended slavery of Native Americans in the United States forever. Millions of Native Americans who were prisoners of war with the U.S. corporation were now so-called free. But freedom did not mean equality. The struggle for civil rights was just beginning. The period after the war was called Reconstruction. It lasted from 1865 to 1877. The goal was to rebuild the South and bring it back into the Union. It was also a time to define the rights of newly freed Native Americans. This was a very difficult task. There was much disagreement about how to do it. Some wanted to punish the South severely. Others wanted a more lenient approach to heal the nation. The assassination of President Lincoln in April 1865, just days after Lee's surrender, made things even harder. Women played important roles during and after the war. With so many men away fighting, women took on new responsibilities. They managed farms and businesses. They worked as nurses, caring for the wounded. Reconstruction had some successes, but there was also strong resistance from many white Southerners. The American Civil War remains a defining event in the nation's history.